Welcome back to a new week on Out of the Bubble podcast. My name's Rachel Peru, and boy, do we have a bag full of body confidence for you this week on this week's show. Today we are talking to Judith van der Peer, otherwise known as Puppin de Veer. Judith started a new hobby at 55, burlesque dancing. Something that she could never have imagined when it would lead to. She wanted to do something different, she wanted to do some exercise that was fun, went along and really fell in love with it. She now has become a professional burlesque dancer and has been, seen in lots of different stages across the country, and she is flying the flag for women in their midlife, and she is so body confident. I absolutely adore looking at her Instagram feed, so I can't wait to share and to hear Judith's journey. Grab a coffee and enjoy. So welcome, Judith. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Hi there. Yeah, likewise.
It's just another great connection that I've made through social media. It's so good, isn't it, at finding new people?
Yeah, it's amazing. We were just talking before we started about the community of Silver Sisters on various platforms, and it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, no, it is.
And for me, especially over lockdown, it was a real kind of lifesaver, actually, to be able to kind of connect to people all over the world who are doing fascinating things.
Yeah, it seems to be much more diverse, doesn't it now, which is exciting.
Yes, very much so, yeah.
I mean, we have got lots to talk about today.
Okay.
And I've already given you your introduction, but I'm asking my guests now to describe, how would you describe yourself in 3 words and why?
Oh, yeah. Now, I wrote this down because you asked me this in advance. And I was really stuck with this one, but I guess I would say adventurous. I would say transformative, in that I've done lots of different things through different stages of my life, and we'll probably go on to do more as well. I'm very much hoping. And this is not one word, but true to myself, genuine, I would say. Yeah. So those were my 3.
Love them. Thank you so much. And, I just think it gives a real insight into somebody before we start the conversation of
it's really interesting to think about yourself as well, isn't it? You don't often do that.
No.
You don't often consider yourself in that way, and it was quite an interesting exercise. Yeah.
So for anybody, obviously, we're going to be talking about your burlesque and how you got into the burlesque dancing, but lots of people might be listening to this that don't actually know what burlesque dancing is. What's the best way of describing it?
Right. Burlesque is a form of entertainment which is usually dancing, but not necessarily. Traditionally, the word burlesque traditionally comes from a long, long way back, and it's an Italian word which is like to laugh at something, to burlare, which is to make fun of things. So it has that aspect of kind of commentary as well as just a performance. It is stripping normally. Not everybody strips. People strip to different degrees, but generally stripping is involved in it. So it's all those things all together. When people think of burlesque, they usually think of classic burlesque. And classic burlesque would be somebody like Dita Von Teese, which is very glamorous, often has a kind of retro focus to it as well. So they're looking back to the kind of 50s or 40s or 30s or something like that. But there is also what we call neo-burlesque, which kind of was when burlesque had a bit of a revival in the 80s and 90s. It was coined then, and neo-burlesque performers are a little bit more edgy, a little bit more about the story. The acts normally have a kind of message or a story or a theme or something like that to them as well. So yeah, it's something like that, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Amazing. I have actually just been to see the Glamotronics show with Dita Von Teese, and I just fell in love. It was just amazing. The whole show, it's just the showmanship of it all was just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of the skill and the attention to detail is just incredible. Really, really beautiful. Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to know, how did this all start for you? Because had you always had an interest in it, or because I know you started later in life, so what brought you there?
No, not really. To be perfectly honest, I danced when I was younger. And by that I mean I got taken to ballet classes when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and kind of really, really enjoyed them up until I hit my teens and got all rebellious and was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So I stopped doing dance around 13, 14. But really enjoyed it when I was doing it. But that was it. I didn't do anything else at all. And then I was looking for a dance class mainly to kind of keep fit, also to kind of meet people in the area as well. And I'd been to a couple of things, and I'd been to salsa, I'd been to Lindy, I'd been to things, and they'd never really kind of stuck. And then just on Facebook, I saw an advert for burlesque dancers. Well, it didn't even say dance, burlesque classes. And I kind of thought, oh, that looks like fun, really without not having an awful lot of an idea of what I had never seen live burlesque, for example.
Yeah.
So I had an image of what I thought it was going to be, but I didn't really know all that much about it at all. And just signed up on a whim, really, to a course of classes.
And how did that lead to, because lots of people do classes, but then they just leave it there and just do it as a bit of a hobby. So how did you take that kind of leap of faith and go, okay, do you know what, I'm going to start doing this a lot more, and I'm going to perform on stage and be out there?
Yeah, they, well, the first group of classes, the first kind of course was just having a go at it kind of thing. And then there was a continuation class which had a showcase at the end of it. So it was like act development. You made your own act, and you had the opportunity to perform it. And it was all the people who were on the course, plus a few invited established performers, and we put on a show. So that was when I debuted and did my first act then. And I was just hooked. I was absolutely hooked on doing it. I mean, it was an incredible feeling to be doing that in front of an audience. I just had so much fun. So the course came to the end, and I thought, I want to carry on doing this. So I joined up some of the burlesque groups on Facebook and started looking for castings, and just got myself casting shows, basically, and went on from there.
I absolutely love it. I mean, I love that you've done this, and I think it's amazing. And what a great way to represent older women as well. Mm-hmm. How's that been? Has your age come into it? Have you felt completely accepted, inclusive, or have you felt that your age has been a barrier at some point?
No. Burlesque is actually, as a community, and particularly something called the Burlesque Hall of Fame, which is really the sort of international museum and safeguard of burlesque, the traditions of burlesque, are actually really good at honouring veteran performers. So they do a lot with veteran performers, both kind of raising money for people who need it, but also once a year they put on a show that is specifically for veterans. So these are performers in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and above, some of them, who've been performing for years and years and years, who are still performing now, and they invite them to these shows, and they are absolutely incredible. If you ever want to have a look, just go and look at the Burlesque Hall of Fame. Incredible performers. So that kind of respect for older performers is kind of there. It was a different thing for me because I wasn't a veteran. I was a new performer, but older. So that is a slightly different perspective, really. It's difficult. And I do kind of make a noise about it as well. I do make a noise about it in terms of You will see shows that will advertise themselves as inclusive. So they would be inclusive in various different categories, but not mention that they are age inclusive. And I'm like, well, why then is that not also a category to look at to be inclusive in? So I will call that kind of thing out, and you do see it.
Yeah.
Another thing you see, which kind of I call out when I can, is kind of what I call granny drag. So you will get acts where they are young performers who will come on stage with the grey hair and the coat and, oh, I'm so old, and then this will come off and, oh, look, I'm young and sexy now, that kind of thing. And you still get it. And it kind of surprises me that you do still get it, but it is still out there.
Yeah.
So there's still barriers to kind of talk about, I think. And I will still find that in most cases, I will be the oldest person in the show. Not always, but in most cases. But I think when I did, we'll probably talk about the Solid Gold Silver show another time, but I did a show that was, I produced a show that was specifically for older performers during lockdown. And what was lovely about that is then I got to meet lots and lots of people who are, some of them old performers, some of them older as in veteran performers, some of them new performers of my age or more, from all over the world. And you got to see that, oh, it isn't just me, there's actually lots of us out there. But you don't always bump into each other, do you know what I mean? You're not always
and you also don't get the
like
same amount of publicity, do you? I'm guessing, as an older burlesque dancer, you don't hear about them as much.
No, probably not. I mean, they're not. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, publicity wise, it's like we're all hustling for publicity. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel it's any greater or less than that. Do you get cast as often as an older performer? Probably not. There probably is still sort of prejudice against it, that it's still like a little bit unusual. But we have to work against things like that, and I'm very happy to try and do that. And I like to make my age as visible as possible. Do you know what I mean? There are performers I know who are my age who wouldn't talk about it, who don't talk about their age. I kind of decided quite early on that actually it was really important to me that I did talk about my age, that I made it part of the acts that I do, that I made it part of the way that I present myself. So it's kind of out there. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Have you always had this kind of creative part to you? Because and it's very brave to go on stage. It's a difficult thing to do at the best of times, but then to strip off and do a dance and the movements. And have you always had that side to you, that confidence, I guess, in you, or is this something that's come later in life?
It comes and goes. It definitely comes and goes. And I came to it, there's been peaks and troughs, I would say. I came to it at a point where I was just coming out of a trough, I would say. I had my daughter about 4 or 5 years before that. I had adenomyosis, which is a bit like endo. And I had a hysterectomy as a result of that, which meant obviously my hormones crashed off a cliff as well. And it was all a bit kind of like all sorts of stuff happened very fast. And I was just coming out of that. And I was just getting into kind of feeling like I was feeling better when I found burlesque. And I think it was a big kind of help to get me out of a big slump. But having said that, I've done other weird stuff as well. So, in a way, I have always been a little bit creative and willing to do stuff that isn't necessarily the norm as well. So,
and that's the whole thing. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, isn't it? You just don't know where it's going to lead to. Look where it's led to. It's amazing. Right.
And I mean, before burlesque, I taught English as a foreign language. So I literally, when I started doing that, I took a job in Barcelona. I didn't speak any Spanish. I turned up in Barcelona not knowing anybody, on my own. So that doing those kind of things that are a kind of leap of faith, I have done that before. Yeah, I think that is kind of, that risk taking is a bit in my nature, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But how did it feel when you literally, that first performance, how did it feel backstage before you were going on stage? Because I can imagine once you're on stage and you're there, it's really empowering. But I would imagine, from my point of view, I would imagine the lead up to it, I would be full of anxiety.
It's terrifying. And particularly the first time, it's absolutely terrifying. But it is a real kind of adrenaline thing. So once you get over your fear and you're doing it, the adrenaline is just incredible. It's a rush. It really is a really big rush. And I think it's genuinely addictive because of that, because the exhilaration you get from doing it, particularly when you're first starting, it's incredible. Yeah. But it's like, it's an almost out of body experience the first couple of times you did. I literally went on stage because I don't perform now with my glasses on. I went on stage with my glasses on because I forgot I had them on. I was in that kind of state. I was just like, and it wasn't until I finished, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did the whole thing with my glasses on. Do you know what I mean? It is, once you're on stage, it's almost like you don't know what you're doing. It kind of, something takes over and you just do it.
Do you feel like you are playing a character, a different role? I mean, let's, the name, for instance, Puppin de Verre, where's that come from?
Yeah. Well, my name, Puppin, comes from puppy. I had a nickname when I was younger of Puppy, basically because I was quite clumsy and gangly, and I had big feet and would fall over them a lot. So I was a bit like a big puppy. And de Verre, it was like I wanted something that said green, because I've got green eyes. I wear green costumes quite a lot. That sounded a bit fancy. So if you make it French, it always sounds kind of fancy. So that was kind of where it came from. And you pronounced it perfectly, which is unusual, because most MCs, just as I'm about to come on, will pronounce my name completely wrong.
Oh, no.
Because it's unusual.
Yeah.
No, but that's fine. It's fine. And I didn't want to have a kind of standards Dita or Scarlett or something that is there's a lot of. I wanted it to be a name that nobody else had. And that's the pitfall of that, is that no one can pronounce it. But there you go.
Do you feel like when you are on stage performing, that's the real you? Do you feel like you are completely kind of, you're comfortable and you're in your element there?
You feel like you times 100. You feel like a kind of superhero version of you, if you know what I mean. In a way it is me, but it's me times a lot. And it also depends on what act you're doing as well, because with some of them, I'm doing a character. Yeah. So I become that. For a while, I did one based on Tonya Harding. So I was Tonya Harding. I do another one based on Joan Collins. So I am Joan Collins, kind of thing. But I'm still Puppin doing that. So it depends which act. Some of them are more kind of just you, and some of them are more kind of somebody else. But it's always a basic you, but a you times 1,000 kind of thing.
Where do you get the ideas for the acts? Because some of them are brilliant. They all are. But where do you get the inspiration from?
From everything. Honestly, you drive yourself crazy when you start doing this, because you'll hear a song, you'll watch a film, you'll see a piece of costume, you'll hear a bit of dialogue, you'll see all these things. You're like, oh, I can make an act from that. Oh, I can. Do you know what I mean? You have constant lists of ideas and crazy things that you think, oh, I wonder if I could actually do that. And because not everybody likes doing the making side of things. Do you know what I mean? I really like making stuff work. So I'm very much like, I did one that was UV. It was using UV costume, and I was just like, how am I going to make this work? What can I do to illuminate a costume? And eventually, I ended up buying the torches that you use to find bugs or urine stains, and strapping those to a gun and all this sort of, you know, that kind of getting an idea and then making it work. I find that really interesting. I like doing that.
And what about the costumes as well? Because you know, the lingerie and the corsets, they're just absolutely stunning.
I'm not a dressmaker, so I don't make my own clothes, but what you tend to do is buy stuff and adapt it. So
have you got any favourite kind of brands that you like to buy from that suit curvier women?
Where do I buy? Well, corsets I mainly get from like corset companies like Corset Story, and I'll just get a corset and adapt it, usually rhinestoning. And I love rhinestoning, so I will sit for hours rhinestoning various bits and pieces. I'm very happy to do that. Lingerie, where do I like Blue Bella quite a lot. I buy quite a lot of Blue Bella stuff, mainly the sort of black strappy stuff is nice. I'm not a terribly kind of retro girl, although a lot of people buy stuff from what Katie did or whatever. That's not necessarily my style. Playful Promises will always have something on there that I want to buy. So wherever really. And I do thrift shop and charity shop a lot, so I'll find lots of kind of vintagey things as well to go with it. And
And what about body confidence? Because you do have to be body confident. You have to be really comfortable in your own skin to go out there and expose yourself. Have you always had that?
No, not really. And it comes and goes again. I mean, you know, I will have times when I look at myself and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so hot. I can't, you know, look at me, I'm amazing. And then other times I'll get stuff, particularly photos back. You'll get photos back and just go, oh God, really? But that it just kind of dips and troughs, really.
So what do you do on those times when you are kind of in the trough, but you know you've got quite a few performances to come up? How do you get yourself out of that? What tips would you give to other women to kind of push past that?
That's an interesting question, really. I would go back and look at stuff that I do like. I'm very happy to delete stuff that I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with people who say you need to be real all the time. So, you know, I will sometimes get remarks about retouching on photos and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you know, sometimes I will put up unretouched photos. Sometimes I will put up stuff that is retouched to, you know, within an inch of its life. And that's kind of up to me, because it's my image. It's me making myself feel good about myself. And it's not really anybody else's business. So I guess in those kinds of things, I would go back to images or ideas or things that I like and look at myself on those and just go, yeah, but look, that would look great, you know.
She's hot.
Yeah, exactly. She is hot, and that is still me, you know, both of me. And either is fine. Yeah.
And what about reaction from friends and family when you first started doing this? Has everybody been fully supportive, or have they been quite surprised?
Mainly my mum was incredibly supportive. My mum loved it. She thought it was a hoot. I used to take her to all the performances. She'll sit at the front cheering and clapping. She thought it was great. The rest of my family, depends. It took a while to talk to my daughter about it, because she was going into teenage at that time. You know, the time when mum's embarrassing anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what mum's doing, she's embarrassing. So me actually being embarrassing was just like a million times more. So I've soft pedaled that quite a lot. But she's cool with it now.
Has she been to see your shows? Has she come to see you?
Lily, no, not really. She and also COVID as well. She's gone off to university, and also COVID hit at a time where I was like, okay, you know, now she's 18, she can come to shows if she wants to, because she couldn't before anyway, because 18 plus. And then COVID hit and shows stopped anyway, and it was a bit like, oh well, you know. So no, not yet, but I'm happy with her doing that, and I've invited her to a couple, so it will happen. Friends generally, well, friends know me, and they were almost not that surprised. It was like, what's she going to do next? Okay, this kind of figures, you know.
Yeah, I've got friends who probably think that about me as well, so I can
they're like,
relate to that.
Right, okay. Of course you're going to go and do something crazy like that. I've had one or two friends who were slightly cringed out by it, I think, but that's fine, you know, it's not for everybody, and that's cool if they don't want to come, you know. But generally people are really, really positive, and not just friends, you know, generally strangers are pretty positive about it as well, which is lovely.
And what about during COVID? You know, you mentioned COVID earlier, that obviously everything stopped in theatres, so what impact did that have on you? Because that's your creative outlet, isn't it? And without that, how do you manage?
It was really very odd, and it's odd to say this now, but in a way I did lots of stuff when COVID was happening that I wouldn't have done if it wasn't. And in a way it was actually really quite positive for me. I enjoyed some of the things that we got to do when shows were shut and we were doing online stuff. So basically what happened is a lot of shows went online. So either you would be performing your normal act, like kind of like we are now, live, but on Zoom or whatever. And then as it kind of progressed a bit, people decided a better idea really is to allow people to create little films. And what we did was kind of get acts and make video acts. And immediately I was like, well, this is cool because I can have multiple changes of costume. I can set it wherever I feel like setting it. I can build a massive set if I feel like it. I can cut it. I can have different bits of music. You know, I can do whatever I want with this. And actually it was really fun. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never edited video or anything like this before, but because you had lots of time I had lots of time because, you know, I wasn't doing the job that I used to do during lockdown, I had lots of time to fiddle around with stuff, and I actually found it really creative, and I really enjoyed it. So in a way that was really good. The other positive thing during lockdown is, like I said, because you were doing online shows, you were connecting with people all over the world because anybody could join in these shows. So, and that's why I decided to do the Solid Gold Silver show, because it's like there are probably enough performers in the UK to do it, but if you do it worldwide and put out a casting for worldwide, anybody over the age of 50 who does burlesque, join the show. The amount of people that I met that way was incredible.
I mean, that sounds really fantastic. You know, I'd love to know more about that. So where do you hold it? Do you hold it? Obviously, you hold it in the UK.
No, at the moment it's only been online. I haven't done a live one of it.
Right. Would you do a live one?
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a live one. I mean, just logistically, money-wise, I couldn't afford to pay performers to come to the UK to do it. But I think there is enough of us here to be able to do a UK one, and I am thinking about doing it.
Yeah, that's exciting. Because you teach, you teach it as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yes, that's fairly new. I've been teaching burlesque for about 6 months or so.
And I love that kind of like seeing people's confidence grow, I would imagine.
Exactly. I really, really enjoy it, particularly the beginners classes, because you're just watching people just go, wow, you know, this is giving me permission to kind of do all sorts of stuff that I didn't think I could do. And it's just incredible how quickly, when people have that that time and space and that permission to do what they want, how they just flourish, you know.
Yeah.
And again, the class is a real range of people, real range of types, a real range of sizes, real range of ages, genders, whatever. You get all sorts of people coming along to do it, and that it's lovely. I really enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it. It's really
That's
fun.
what struck me about the burlesque shows that I've seen is that it's how it is so, you know, that you can see people of all sizes, of you know, different backgrounds, all doing very different things, very diverse, all kind of unique. And I don't think you get that very often in the same show. And I think I came away feeling, I always come away feeling really empowered. And it must be so freeing to be part of that.
Yeah. It's an incredibly diverse community of people, and just fascinating for that reason. Who's doing it, what they're doing, why they're doing it. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Have you got a kind of dream venue that you would like to do a burlesque show at? Have you got something that you really would love to be seen at?
Well, I mean, just before COVID hit, I got myself cast in a couple of international festivals. I'd like to do some more festivals. I'd like to do some international festivals. I went to the States just on holiday, but did some photos there.
Yeah.
But while I was there, I was kind of planting seeds to do that as well. So I would love to go back to the States. I would love to perform in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would love something like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of places I haven't done yet. So there's a lot that I can still do, really. Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see you. And if I am ever down in your neck of the woods, I will definitely come down.
Or if I'm ever up your way.
Yeah, because I mean, that's on my list. I would love to try burlesque, and I've got it in my head that at some point in my life I will do a show. I would love to, just because I think it would really push me out of my comfort zone.
Okay, well, let me know.
Yeah,
definitely let me know. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yes.
No, so thank you so much. I just love what you're doing, and I love the way that you're really challenging people's perception of kind of women in midlife, because, you know, they can't put us in boxes. We're all different, and we all can celebrate the aging process, and nothing stops us. And I love what you're doing.
Absolutely. And it's just what I love. One of the things I love at shows is you get such a lot of feedback from older women. And usually the feedback is, it's nice to be seen. It's nice to see somebody like me up there.
That they can relate to.
Yeah, it's about representing a little bit.
And also the younger generation seeing that they don't have to fall off a cliff at 40. They can carry on doing it.
Also that as well. I mean, my next act is it's based around the idea of, you know, the seaside fortune teller in a box. It's that. But it's about, like, I know your future. So I know what your future will be as you get older, and it's not as bad as you think. You know what I mean? That you're very frightened of being old, but you can make it something else for yourself. Yeah.
Love it. Well, I'm sure you are going to go on and do lots more things, and I hope you do some lingerie modelling as well. I've seen the shoots that you've done. I saw the one.
I'd love to. I'd love to do more. I mean, I've got, because modelling, I mean, when I started, I hated having my photo taken. Even when I was starting burlesque and able to do stage stuff, the photo side of it, I hated it. But the more I've done, the more I've got into photos, and I would really love to do more of that. So yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Everybody should try it once, I think. I think everyone should have the opportunity to do it.
Oh,
once.
Definitely. Yeah. To do a boudoir shoot or something like that. It's great. Yeah.
How can people come and find you?
The best way, where I put most of my stuff up, is on my Instagram. So that's Pupin Devert, PUPINDEVERT. Yeah.
Fabulous, brilliant. And I'll put the notes on so people can come and find you. I asked the same question to all my guests because I'm really wanting to encourage women to be more complimentary about themselves. So if you were to pay yourself a compliment, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. If I was to pay myself a compliment, I would probably say That I'm not, it's similar to the three words though, that I'm not afraid to be myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
I think
it.
that's probably it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so important. And you just, embracing everything. Love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Judith. It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you too.
talking to you,
It's
and I'm
lovely
looking
to
forward
speak to you.
to watching, as you develop, and hopefully our paths will cross in person one day.
I hope so. Yeah.
Watch this
Thank you,
space.
Rachel.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Well, what a great interview with Judith. She is such an inspiration. I love the fact that she didn't start burlesque dancing until her mid-50s. And look at what she's doing now and how much fun she is having along the way. Great role model, and I love the fact that she is showing up for older women in this arena and allowing other women to see figures that they can relate to on the stage doing burlesque, and really kind of showing up for the older woman, as well as empowering and kind of liberating herself as well. I think it's just amazing, and yeah, a real role model. I'm so glad our paths have crossed. And yes, it is something that I would like to try. It is on my bucket list, so let's watch this space. Perhaps talking to Judith has taken me one step forward, so we shall see. I'll keep you posted on that one. And if you are wanting to step out of your comfort zone and become more body confident, then don't forget you could come and join me on the group lingerie shoot day, which is happening on 18th of May at Chic Studios in Sheffield. And I'll be joined by a small group of women who will all be over 40, and we're going to be doing some group lingerie shoot photos. You will come and spend the day with me, and if I have to, I will literally be on set to hold your hand all day if need be, sharing my tips of what I've learned as being a lingerie model in my 40s and 50s. You'll have expert hair and makeup. You'll be made to feel $1 million wearing lingerie that makes you feel good, because I want everybody to really come on set feeling the best versions of themselves. So it will be a really empowering day, and you definitely will leave with a bag full of body confidence. So there are a few spaces left. If you would like to know more, go on rachelperu.co.uk. If that's not for you, what could you do to step out of your comfort zone this week? Face your fears and try a small step out of it, because that's where the magic happens. I will be back next week with some more inspiration. In the meantime, keep being fabulous.